So excuse the droopy eyes of each one of us. 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. for you guys comes pretty quickly with wrestling being in other countries, but you'd think we're pretty battle tested at this point. But we're back. Wrestling is now over. The Olympics are now over. The first day without the Olympics is kind of weird, honestly, because you wake up every day and you're like, there's 30,000 sports on. And as sports fans, you're like, this is the best thing ever. Like, I'm going to watch table tennis. I'm going to watch badminton because it's going to get super extreme in the medal rounds. And now you wake up today and you're like, shit, there's nothing on. Like, what am I supposed to watch now?
Yesterday, I
Well, I
legitimately,
rewatched.
yeah, that's a smart move. I had forgotten that the Tigers play baseball, kind of, some days, and I
Attempt.
was
They
like, oh
attempt
yeah,
to play baseball.
like they have a game today. I'll watch that.
Yeah. What were your guys' thoughts like overall, not just not on wrestling, but overall on like all like other sports with the Olympics?
Kudos to that pole vaulter. Good on him.
She'll be just fine.
Which
Yeah.
wait,
She'll be
which one? The one that the video is going around everywhere, or
yeah,
the one where the guy broke the record?
probably the one that
I didn't know there was a record broken.
I think
I
there's
think
two
they,
records we're talking about.
yeah, yeah, we're these are different records. The one that didn't come home with a medal, good for
Yeah,
him. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That one that was a pretty viral moment. That I don't think anybody has ever seen. But even though he didn't win, I'm sure
He won.
he'll
He
never
won.
have to look for a date again.
fine. I'm sure he had a
He
good
didn't
time
win a
in the
medal.
village.
He won though.
Yeah,
Olympics.
being in that Olympic village, I'm sure he was just fine.
Yeah, God.
The
And he got some of
videos
those
that
muffins afterwards. Good to go.
yeah. Yeah, did you see Amit's video of stealing the muffins out of the Olympic Village?
Yeah,
Everybody was going nuts over these chocolate muffins apparently, and Amit decided that she was going to smuggle like 30 of them out of there. By the way, she's an awesome follow on
he
Mhm.
Instagram
is.
with all
Yeah,
her videos throughout everything. So not just a savage that'll rip your head off. She also has a ton of personality too, which is really, really cool.
well, yeah. Is there like a security guard that was going to stop her from stealing the muffins?
I think there's
Just
I
flash
don't
the
know if
middle.
you're like allowed to take food out of the cafeteria portion because of like it's like a huge dorm, right? Like
Mhm.
it's that's what I'm assuming. It's like a huge dorm, so they don't want food in rooms or
I'm sure they had rats living in the cardboard beds, so it's
yeah, I
fine.
mean
Yeah,
giving them cardboard beds is ridiculous, but no, I mean I thought that the Olympics was I thought it was really cool, obviously. Um, but I guess it was a bit of a shit show behind closed doors and things that we couldn't see. Um, my girlfriend's boss, my girlfriend works at like a facility that's it's like a child facility. They also do like gymnastics training. And her boss used to be Jordan Child's coach when she was little.
oh wow.
So she went to the Olympics, and the thing about Noah Lyles having COVID, she was like, it was really well known that like a number of athletes had COVID. It was like so the fact that like back home we didn't know that all these athletes had COVID was like insane, and that when it came out for him, everybody was going nuts. But like I was talking to her boss yesterday, and she was like, yeah, like a ton of athletes had COVID. Like he was not the only athlete to be competing with COVID at all.
He
It
was
was
he
it like
was at the club
skyrocketed.
3 days later too, partying away.
Yeah, I
Which I
mean,
don't
hey,
think is
listen, you
recommended
get
by a
it.
doctor, but
Yeah, I mean, you get a negative test and you're right back into the wild.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think it was probably
You're
worse for him
saying
because he has
that
asthma.
if we have a large congregation of people in a small area, that a highly communicable disease is going to get spread around. It's wild, wild thought.
Yeah.
Go
I mean, I'm
figure.
glad it didn't make a bigger impact. I mean, we saw the impact that it had on Tokyo. Um, just with everything, the time frame, with the impact it had on the athletes, the impact on had on spectators, and how everything worked. So I'm glad that it didn't, shut things down like 2 years ago it would have. So
Yeah.
Noah Lyles must go to Dr. Feelgood. He sent him right back out there.
Yeah.
That's a Motley Crew reference for those who missed it. So
I
yeah, look it
mean,
up.
I mean, but still like having COVID and extreme asthma the way he does and still getting the bronze medal is amazing. So
Mhm.
Yeah. Did you see Tyreek Hill talking shit about that today though?
yeah,
Come
because
on.
Tyreek thinks he's literally the fastest person in the world.
There's levels. He's fast.
He's
He's
football
not.
fast. He's
Yeah.
not track. He's not track fast anymore. I don't think he used to be. I mean, he was a track athlete. I think he showed up to what was it? Showed up to some event at some point and like won it and like blasted the competition. But yeah, like Olympic fast is completely different. Like
I could probably win a middle school track meet.
hey, listen, I was extremely impressed by what's her name? Sydney McLaughlin
Yeah.
Lavroni. Amazing. Like, yeah.
Is
So
that Sarah's sister?
yes. Yes. There were
Shit, in
there
the
were no
arms of an
angels
angel.
around though.
Yeah. Or little stray dogs.
Yeah.
There's probably plenty of those, to be fair.
Right? Plenty of those. There were I saw people that were like, I saw a tweet the one day, it might have been today. I can't remember. All the last week has kind of smashed together. But it was like if you're 35 and over and saying this was the best Olympics, how can you forget about Atlanta and this and that and that and this? And I'm like, yeah, but this was just different. This Olympics just kind of hit different. For me, I feel like it was the best one. What do you guys think?
I mean, I was too young, and I mean, I was 96. I was 10 probably, and
Yeah.
then So this was cool for me. I said, I mean, I didn't watch the 96 Olympics. Maybe 45 and over would have been a better number, but
Yeah,
this one
maybe.
was pretty awesome for me.
At least
Yeah.
there wasn't a bomber. That's good.
Hmm.
It kind
Yeah.
of put a kibosh on some of the fun.
Yeah.
And the 96 was great because being in Atlanta, it showed out. U.S. had a fantastic performance overall. Michael Johnson and the gold cleats and just all that stuff. It was great. I felt like this one was kind of more choppy to me, and maybe that's just kind of how I viewed it. I think there wasn't a lot of time for me to sit down and watch it,
Mhm.
other than wrestling, except in little chunks with the kids. So maybe that's part of it. Um, I vote that we have all Olympics on East Coast time from now on, just because it would make my life a lot easier. But I mean, overall, it was great. We knew going in the U.S. was heavy favorites for the medal haul, and they delivered. There was a lot of great moments. Gymnastics was good. Katie Ledecky winning her 936th medal. So lots of fun things throughout. It's always fun to watch the Olympics. You kind of get a different feel, except for the weird breakdancing lady, but that's a whole other conversation.
Which will not be back in 2028 anyway. So
Oh no,
we
That's a
we
shame.
only have one year of breakdancing, but we do get baseball, softball, and like a number of like other sports
Yeah.
back in
yeah,
the
shit,
Olympics.
America can win it.
Cricket, squash,
Hey,
and
listen,
flag football.
I don't know. Yeah, flag football comes into
football?
it. Flag football, I
Yeah.
think, is where we'll make a lot of money, but I don't know about baseball. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
We're
I
not gonna win
mean,
that.
Shohei Otani is a absolute beast. So
Well,
It's during the baseball season though, so I don't know how many of those guys are actually going to play.
yeah, but they may do
They'll
the
do like an
same-
all-star break, like they
Like
did.
a long
Yeah.
break, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the women, like the WNBA goes on break for
Yeah.
the time frame of the Olympics. So I think by 2028 they might build it into their season or something like that. I mean, it's years away, so we'll figure it out. But yeah, I think
I
it's
didn't
gonna
know
be
about this flag football. I'm very intrigued.
yeah,
Are we just
NFL
gonna like get
players-
arena league guys and put them
No,
on
no, the
permanent
NFL
flags?
players are playing. They've
Yeah.
said they're playing.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes in collective bargaining.
yeah. I mean, the NFL, Roger Goodell already came out saying something or along the lines of like he wants our guys to participate and he wants that to happen. Because I mean, if you think about it, it's better for the Shield, right? Because it's international now, and they want to get into all these other different countries with there's like
Those
NFL
London
Europe,
games are so awesome.
yeah, like there's NFL UK and NFL Europe and stuff like that too. So I think that kind of opens up more revenue streams if they allow NFL players to come in, and then they're like, oh, okay, maybe that wide receiver has some speed, and we can put pads on him and throw him in the NFL, right? So that's what I see it as with Goodell loving it.
It's like a supplemental developmental draft.
Exactly. Exactly. So what let's move to some wrestling talk. I
Is that what we're
think
supposed to do here?
I think that's what we're supposed to do. Still with a painting with a broad brush though. I love the format. I loved having one weight on this mat, one weight on this mat, one weight on this mat, right? It was awesome. I thought it really worked really well for viewing purposes. You knew, you know, where everybody was going to be. They had the lineup that came out. Like we knew, I mean, I felt like from a viewership standpoint, it was very well run. So, and then obviously Burrows did an amazing
He
job.
did. He really
He
did.
crushed it. My
Yeah.
only thinking was, could we tweak that? I know they put men's freestyle last because that's the most viewership, but would it be beneficial to do one of each style each day? One Greco, one women's freestyle, one men's freestyle, instead of front loading Greco and back loading men's freestyle. Just spread that out. So there's one athlete going every time. Or would that make it more convoluted with like rule sets and I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think here's the thought though, right? Is viewership, the longevity of it, because you have 18 individual tournaments. So they're gonna spread those out as well and as much as they can. And men's freestyle in every country. Well, no, I shouldn't say every country because some countries Greco is the penultimate. But for the
Which I
most
can't
part,
fathom why, but
because that's what they grow up doing.
yeah, yeah, just so
It's
foreign to us.
it's super foreign to us. Like their programs, it's all international styles where we start folk style. Right. There's not there may be kids now that are starting with freestyle, but we start folk style. So for us, they're like, what is this? What is this like control? You know what I mean? He's rolling it across his back. There should be points when there's not, right? So I'm
Yeah,
sure for them it is, but like I think the idea of it is to stretch it over as long of a period as possible because it's a revenue thing. And if you're Snoop Dogg, you're like, yeah, stretch this shit out. I'm getting 500K a day, so
Yeah.
let's make this happen. But like, yeah, I mean,
It's insane.
I think it would be pretty dope to have, one, one freestyle, men's freestyle, one women's freestyle, and one Greco. But I just think from a scheduling standpoint, there's like, it's probably best if we do it this way for revenue purposes and for viewership and ratings.
I just feel bad for the wrestlers who had to wait until the last day. You know what I mean? It's like you don't get to just hang out and be at the Olympics and just like live your life and enjoy that experience. You have to train and prepare, and then all of a sudden it's over and everyone goes home.
Here's your
And
medal match. Now go to closing ceremonies. You get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
especially because they're not even in the Olympic Village. They were in the wrestlers were in the Olympic Village, I think, for what, like 3 days. They had opening ceremonies and then they left and went to Normandy. So it was just like everybody was just gone. Like I didn't realize that until I saw Dake's video of them like riding scooters and whatever
Mhm.
down. They're like, oh, in this really cool beach town, and them taking pictures in Normandy. So I didn't realize that they had left the Olympic Village and that they were training somewhere else. But I mean, I think that's really awesome that they're able to do that. But yeah, like you're just gone, like for like a month.
Yeah.
You
Experience is
know,
very different.
yeah, it really is. So, and even with like gymnastics is so long. Like
Mhm.
Simone Biles didn't even go to the opening ceremonies, and she was still competing like right around when wrestling was starting, and that
Mhm.
was like a while after. They were at the end. So many like a lot of these sports are just competing for such a long time. So many of these athletes have to peak for a very long amount of time. So yeah, but I mean, I really thought it was great. It was a great setup. From our perspective of viewership. Um, the Peacock app didn't always work for me on the multi-view, so I had to bust out the
yeah,
computer. I didn't. Not all three would play at the same time. Sometimes I'd get two mats to work. Um, but overall, you were able to see everything. I hope they never use a ref cam again
That was disturbing.
That was so shitty. That was so bad.
I like the concept of it, but I just don't think it worked well.
Yeah,
It's like you get to see what he's seeing, which is cool idea wise, but when it actually came to
And half the
fruition,
time it's
I
like
don't know.
shooting
that's what
a
I'm saying.
different
Like
direction,
it's on
like
the
looking at
side
the
of their
ceiling.
head. Like
Yeah.
that was a problem. But it is what it is. But no, like I said, overall, I enjoyed all of it. Um, but now that everything's done, and as American fans, you know how we are prone to overreaction.
In
And
wrestling,
yeah, right. Like I think in anything, but obviously the wrestling community is going to jump to we need changes to this and we need changes to that when when our expectations aren't met. Um, and I'll admit, like looking at our team, I had high expectations for the team. I think I think we all predicted around 8 or 9 medals. I mean, I think they ended up with 7 anyway, but like so we're not too far off of like what we predicted. But I think we predicted higher finishes for a lot of the guys, and I certainly predicted that Mason Paris would come away with a medal. Um, you know,
Snyder.
and Snyder looking for his 10th in a row. I was on a show with Nick Costco, and Nick and I were talking about how Snyder was maybe kind of taken for granted a little bit, right? And I think that certainly was a thing where everybody was super shocked that he didn't medal. It was just like, no, Snyder's going to go out and he's either going to get, he's going to get one of the three. And when he doesn't, it sends shockwaves, right? And then Brooks loses, and everybody's like, "Oh, we should have sent Taylor." And it's like, so just throw our entire process out. Like we talk about these other countries that are super corrupt and do whatever the hell they want when it comes to picking their team, but then we hit one major hiccup and we need to join them. Like it's just ridiculous. The high expectations were insane to me, and like just seeing the hyperbolic reactions to everything was just ridiculous. You guys
Well,
see any stupid ass takes?
Oh, plenty. But I think it's good that we have high expectations because that shows where we're at and how far we've come. Because I mean, growing up, we didn't have that high of expectations, at least team wise. We always had good individuals, but until kind of the resurgence in the early 2010s when Burrow started hitting his stride and the team really kind of came together, we've been blessed and probably overly so for the last 10 years by the talent that's come through. So we have high expectations, which is great. But the reaction to them not being met is a little excessive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the standard is certainly high. And even when Burroughs won his gold medal, he was like what, one of 2 people to even medal, right? Like
it's him and Coleman, wasn't it?
Yeah, like it wasn't like there were a ton of people.
And was Varner at that one?
I think Varner was.
No, Varner was at that one.
Yeah,
was Varner at that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Varner won it too.
So we get 3 medals, 2 of them gold, 1 bronze that year. But like even that was like, holy shit! Like we just won
was a big
2 gold medals. Like that was a huge year, right? Like the rule set was completely different. Like you had no idea.
It shows the word you're looking for there. The rule set was a shit show.
It was wild, right? And we hadn't really experienced a lot of results in our favor. And Burroughs started racking up all the medals and doing the things he did. And the guys that we had that were really amazing in college, I mean, took Dake a while to make the team, took Taylor a while to make the team because neither one of them could beat Burroughs. But then once once we had 10 weights and things started to really hit stride, like it, our standards started to become higher. But I really think that we kind of paralyzed ourselves where we're just like, oh, Spencer, next question. Oh, we got Dake. And everybody was talking about this whole, Russia's not there. But if you look at the bracket, there's a lot of names that end with V's. So let's call it what it is. Russia was there, just not their flag. So the asterisk talk that went right out the window as soon as we didn't get the results that we wanted. So nobody was talking about that anymore. But the high expectations, I was just like, specifically with the men, because I think with the women, when we looked at it, we were like,
they overperformed.
the women overperformed completely, right? Like 3 women in the finals. Helen grabs bronze. I think we kind of expected things to go the way that they did for Dom and Miracle. Where we even said Miracle's like super close, right? Like she super
Mhm.
close, just waiting for it to turn over. Dom, we didn't know what was really going to happen there, but I feel like she could have medaled. I feel like she could have been in the bronze medal match, but like we, our competitors were, they were in the thick of it. Every single one of them was in the thick of it, excluding Greco, which we're still trying to figure things out. But trashing those athletes, Kamal put out a really good statement. Trashing those athletes, there's no room for it. Wanting things to grow and wanting things to be better in that realm, perfectly fine, perfectly normal. But trashing our athletes, we're not going to get anywhere with that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put that to bed and start to try and build, and don't bring problems, bring solutions, right? And I understand nobody has like the perfect formula for what's going to happen or what should happen with Greco, because our governing body can't even figure it out right now. They even demoted Greco to a developmental program, so if they can't figure it out, we're sure as hell not going to figure it out on Twitter. But like, let's not trash the people that are out there scrapping, the ones that are dedicating their lives to these quads and trying to bring home medals. They don't want to lose. They're not going out there to lose. You know what I mean? But like, something certainly needs to change. Um, but no, I think we're in men's and women's freestyle. I think we're in very good hands from what we saw. But let's talk freestyle a little bit more. Let's go good, bad, and ugly. Let's start with the ugly and work to the good instead of working our way good to ugly. What were some of the things um that you guys saw that were just like head scratchers? Like, what the hell is going on? Robbie, I'll start with you on that one. What were some of the things that you saw that you were just like, holy shit, this is good?
In match adjustments, I think getting hit multiple times with the same low singles for at least 3 different wrestlers that I can think of off the top of my head, you know, they were living on our ankles, and we didn't make those adjustments, and that cost us several matches. One potential gold medal because Spencer couldn't get through the low singles. It hampered Dake a lot too because he couldn't get to his chest wrap and use it effectively because he was collapsing down too much. So it's that was the kind of thing that really bothered me because you can see these things and we know what adjustment needs to be made, but we keep seeing the same thing happening over and over again. Same thing with Snyder. That really kind of paralyzed him as well. Like somebody multiple countries really saw that because multiple countries were living on low singles on us, and that really slowed us down in a lot of matches. Whether it just ate time off the clock or whether it made us, our counter offense, it really took that away from a lot of guys, especially Dake, which is where he scores a lot of his points. So I think that was the biggest concern for me is that, with the caliber of coaches that we have there, I would hope and expect those kind of adjustments to be seen in the match and for that to be able to happen because these guys are capable of that and we know that. So that was the biggest area of concern for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I would have loved to see Snyder attack more, certainly in his bronze medal match. Against Taz, he was attacking late and Taz was just like stepping out of them. And it was just like, what the hell's going on right now? Right. Like how, like is he that strong that he can just step out of them? But I feel like Snyder remembered being thrown for 4, right? The last time they wrestled. And that single, when he got to that single, I was like, perfect. He made the adjustment. He's not trying to run him over. He knows that Taz is going to use his momentum against him, that he can do it on the edge of the mat. He's not going to go and do that. And he's got a snatch single right now. And Taz just like, no. And then like pulled his hands apart. And Snyder was like happy to like find to concede that. And I was just like, that was awkward, but okay, maybe he knows he can get there now and he'll make the adjustment, but he just really didn't. And he was able to score some takedowns, but then in that last match, was it the Iranian? He just tied up Snyder's hands and had amazing wrist control. And Snyder was like, I couldn't really do anything about it. And that to me was just like super head scratch because I was like, where's his attacks at? You can't spend a good amount of time just like hand fighting and hand fighting and hand fighting. And, even with Brooks, I was surprised that Brooks, and maybe it's because we're so used to seeing folk style Brooks and not freestyle Brooks, but I was surprised that he did as much hand fighting as he did and didn't just, attack the way he normally does and try to get to a leg more often, and for me it was him shooting when he did not have to. He was winning the hand fight battle. He did not that shot was I'm flying too damn close to the sun. I'm desperate. I need to slow this down. I need to stop this because if my legs are open, he can take me down. So I need to shoot, get his leg in the air, but like he just stopped wrestling. For me, that was like the worst because he stopped wrestling in a position where he probably could have finished because he was on the ankle and he could have kept moving, but he just decided to hang on. And for me, I was just like, man, like what the hell? And you mentioned Dake too, like the ankle, like I think that Dake relies so much on his chest wrap that it's given him slow feet. And I don't mean that in such a bad way. I think he's able to score in those different positions that allowing a guy to get to his ankle has never been an issue. We've seen him literally be cracked down, get his ankle back out and score with a chest wrap.
Well,
Feels
it's
too
got to build a
comfortable
lot
in
of
a dangerous position.
Yeah.
it's got to build a lot of confidence when you hit that on Jordan Burroughs, a couple different times, right? You probably start to feel pretty invincible. And you know, to his credit, we've seen him hit Takatani in it over the years,
Mhm.
So it's like he probably felt pretty good going up against him and knowing he could get there. But I mean, credit to Takatani, he was completely prepared. One final thing on Brooks too, is I mean that shot at the end of the match has worked for him a bunch of times in college over the last couple of years, but it's the Olympic semifinals and he was wrestling a bulldog of a human being. So
Mhm.
that
And you
was
can't stall out in freestyle. Like you can't. It doesn't
right.
work that way. You can't just sit on a leg and expect to not give up points or to not have it blown dead immediately. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that Brooks loss, maybe it was that or someone right before that or that day. I feel like that was kind of the turning point for the US wrestling because it was
That was
all so good when the women's were there. Amit had that gold, Hildebrand had a gold, like right two off the bat. Spencer Lee was, I think, one of the first ones. Boom, just steamroll everybody. And then Brooks was sitting pretty for what, 5 minutes and 58 seconds. And then I feel like it started to crumble from there. And then, I think Paris was right after that,
Mhm.
Mason, and just kind of a lot of straight on shots, just the freshman that we saw from Mason Paris, just being super athletic, but like Clunch said, this is the freaking Olympics, man. You're not going to get away with just athleticism. You got to be able to create angles, and it was just it was really really weird how it's just something turned and then boom, it was like a lot of bad luck and bad vibes right downhill from there. It was really really strange.
I want to comment on the Paris one a little bit more, and we were all in the Twitter group chat talking about the Olympics at 5 a.m. every morning, right? So, and admittedly, I think early on in that match there were some interesting calls, and I'm not accepting the whole holding center as the only time that like the passivity ever gets called because that's just not correct. It's not
It's
how it has
I don't
worked. It's
yeah
never been
Yeah.
100% of the time that. It's barely been 50% of the time that, right? It's all subjective. Um, he being Mason worked really, really hard early in that match to try and blow it open. And then before he knew it, he was down 4-2, and then he was trying to just take straight on shots and trying to work his way back and um just ran out of gas, and it's tough because we talked about it too. He gets that leg up in the air, he kind of walks the guy out of bounds, the ref lets it continue, he works for the takedown, and then they gave him one anyway. And it's like it's probably pretty hard to hold a 280-pound Mongolian's leg up in the air for that long and then to trip him. So
Yeah, that was the question I had was if you were only going to give him one, why let it continue? Why let continuation happen in that situation, right? Like, and I understand like the ref on the mat gave him two, offered two, but only one was confirmed, and it just didn't make sense because they can throw up one as the action is going on to stop the action from happening. They can throw up one and the white paddle to stop the action from happening. And I don't know, maybe I just missed it. Maybe I got to go back and watch that match. But they didn't do that. They allowed continuation. They allowed him to continue to work towards a takedown and then just ended up giving him 1 point. I also think that him getting thrown for four, I think how he finished that situation, if he rolls to his stomach in frustration instead of rolling to his back, very big difference. Very big difference in my opinion. But yeah, him taking straight on shots was just like, stop trying to show him that you're strong. That's
he's also strong.
He's right. Like I remember saying that watching it, like, Mason, we know you're strong, but you have to create angles on these guys. You cannot continue to take straight on shots, straight on shots, straight on shots. Like, it just made no sense at all to me when the takedown that he scored was scored because of his footwork and his athleticism and his movement. Like, staying in front of those guys, and as big as Mason is, he's not a big heavyweight in that regard. He's really not. Him and Snyder, as strong as they are on the smaller side in their weight classes. So there should be more of a dynamic offense and more dynamic attacks that that come from guys that are this strong, that have the footwork, because we've seen it. We've seen them have all kinds of footwork throughout their careers. And yes, Snyder's 28 and Mason's what, 23, 24 at this point, like
something like that. Yeah.
Still like young, but like, use your footwork. I feel like there needs to be more footwork and agility. And obviously I don't know anything about their training, but when it comes to being out there on the mat, taking straight on shots is not going to work. Hand fighting and try to tire a guy out is not going to work, right? Like, it's just not a strategy anymore. Like, everybody has a gas tank now. Our gas tanks from folk style aren't really going to work. They worked for a very long time, but now we need better tactics. And it just sucked to see Snyder not be able to get to a leg, or Mason taking straight on doubles or straight on singles and not trying to create angles, and not trying to really change what he was doing. Right. He wanted that takedown, and he was so stubborn about it, and it just didn't work out.
Well, and especially against a guy who's doing such a strong job holding center.
Yeah, right.
It's just masterful. I'm going to be
Yeah.
telling my kids about that one day.
Yeah. Yeah. It just wasn't good. Right. And also, I think you were right. There was such strong momentum, Hildebrandt making the finals and winning gold, and Meat winning gold, Helen making the semis. Who else? Brooks making the semis. There was just like so much momentum. Spencer mowing everybody down the way that he did, and completely. I know that his first match was 3-2, but that wasn't a 3-2 match. Like, those last 2 points there's a throwaway points in my book. He looked amazing throughout the entire tournament. Even in the finals, I feel like he looked really good. He just kind of hit a wall of somebody that knows what he was doing, right? So,
well, and on that same day too, for that matter, Team Amin, Miles was in the semis as well that day, right? So
yeah,
and so it was just back to back losses for a minute.
yeah, and like you said, like, even though Amin's not representing America, we're riding high on all our guys going out and doing what we've seen them do on the NCAA level for a very long time, right? So it was just like pure excitement and pure joy, and then it just all came crashing down once we hit the semis, and just was not good. So I think that's the bad and the ugly that we've seen. The good side of things, the women, we're in good shape on the women's side. I think Helen may be done. I don't know about Hildebrandt. She might be. I know she talked about being done after, what was that, after Tokyo,
Yep.
and had to be convinced to come back, like convince
That's a
herself to come
hell of a
back.
note to go out on if she
It
does.
is.
Yeah.
It is, right?
It's like the John Elway walk off.
It
Just
really is.
I'm
It's
good.
that you very few times you get a chance to walk off the mat and be like, I'm golden. This is, my last match. Everything was aligned for her, right? Like and I hated the fact that people immediately jumped to Hildebrandt's going to win gold now that Yui is out of the way. I'm like, did we forget what Helen just did in Olympics? What, 2 Olympics ago? Like, do we forget that even happened? So, like, for me, yes, Sasaki was definitely the overwhelming favorite, but I'm not ever going to rule out an American who has been in the finals, who has been on this world stage for a very long time. It's just like, damn, y'all, like, how much confidence did you not have in Sarah? If you're just like, Sasaki's out, it's all down to Sarah now. Like, stop. Like, there's very good women that are in this entire, like, counting the one that she was supposed to wrestle in the finals, which
Mhm.
that was a very weird situation. Um, but overall, I was very impressed with Sarah. Like, extremely impressed with her ability to just like shut everybody's offense down, get to her offense. And she had different tactics in every single match. You can tell that she had
Mhm.
game plans for every single person that she wrestled, where, the first one was leg lace. The next one was, I'm going to be a little bit more defensive here, more go behinds, more down blocks, so she did so well. And I'm going to stay on the women where they did really well throughout the entire tournament. I was very impressed with each one of them. I mean, even Dom Parrish, she may have lost in that repechage match, but she looked very good. She, early on, she was attacking, she was, running the girl off the mat. Um, Even though Miracle didn't medal, I feel like that was a huge confidence boost for her to go 6-6 with Tiny Bakova, especially the way that she did it. She was
Mhm.
probably the most
Oh,
creative of every single United States wrestler.
that roll through at the end was so cool.
Yeah.
Like to get those last 2 points, and ultimately, didn't do it for her, but that was a pretty dynamic
And the
move.
the one the one she hit in what was it, her first match
Her
to get the
first match,
tech,
yeah.
like, girl draped over the top, she goes with both and just rolls to pick up to that. Like, she was super creative, and
Mhm.
that's what I loved, is like, she just opened up her bag in these matches where we saw some stuff creatively. For me, she was number one on the creative scale of scoring points and going after it and just laying it all on the line. Super. I mean, you're obviously sad for every American that doesn't medal, but super sad for her because she was out to avenge a loss, and it was so close. And yes, you can say the challenge is what did it for her. Throwing that challenge is what ended up giving up the criteria. But man, I was super impressed by her, impressed by Helen. Um, and then from a meet, the way that she looked, hands down, amazing. So I think out of everyone, the women's team is what I was most impressed with, and obviously Kennedy Blades doing things that Kennedy Blades did. That the picture that I tweeted went absolutely wild, and I was like, I did not, like, obviously you expect it, but it was just like, well, holy shit, right? It was all over everything. You saw clips of that throw everywhere. I'd be surprised if that clip doesn't go on. It's going to be like Ellis's flying squirrel.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
going to see that clip a lot. Sucks that the girl was hurt. You don't want anybody to ever be injured.
Hope
But
she's okay.
yeah, like,
Ugh.
it was ugly, but it was a beautiful throw. It was an
Yeah,
absolute
it was
beautiful
pretty.
throw.
That's
It really
textbook.
was.
It hurts so good. I'm just gonna keep going with these old school music references. I wonder what the demographics of this show are. I need people to tell us if they like these.
I know. We gotta look into some of the analytics of
Yeah.
who's watching and how old they are. I'm
It
sure that most people are getting each one of these references.
yeah.
Safe bet.
I'm not gonna stop if the demographics don't mirror it, but
I like him.
for fun.
Quan, you keep going.
Thanks.
Yeah.
These are for you, Austin.
Appreciate it, buddy.
No, the women was my high point. Austin, want to know your thoughts. What were some of the high points that you kind of pinpointed and kind of got you out of your seat and probably woke your young children up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
No, I mean, just seeing the youth, the 20-year-olds doing it, between Kennedy and Elor, like we joked about it last time, they're not even old enough to buy a beer,
Yeah.
or any kind of alcohol legally in the US, which is really young, but
They could have
um,
champagne in France though, so they're
they
good.
could, yeah. I was actually talking to my wife a little bit too, and they were showing some of the clips of, Helen and Sarah and, some of the older team members, right? That they were growing up wrestling boys, just because girls wrestling wasn't a thing then. Um, so I'm interested to see this next crop of young girls now that freestyle is so open, available to them at a young age, to see if, we're going to keep getting better and better from there, just because they're used to that freestyle younger, and they're kind of born and bred into that, instead of wrestling folk style with the boys, like Helen, she did in her interview, which was, I think it would be something to see, if freestyle versus folk style at a younger age is going to actually pay off for the ladies. And I think it will, obviously, right? But yeah, it's just cool to see the youth kind of moving up, and, see Helen go out with a bang like that in very Helen-like fashion. I think that was cool. And yeah, I think women's wrestling is in a really good place right now, and it's shown.
I agree with that. Yeah, it definitely is. Men's freestyle, and we covered the high expectations, but they still had a really good weekend. They just didn't meet the expectations that we had for them, that is literally through, a microscope. Like we know everything about Spencer. We know everything about Zane, everything about our team. And we're like, oh yeah, these guys are absolute bulldogs. They're just gonna, they're gonna roll out the mats and they're gonna have gold medals on the mats for us to pick up, and we're just gonna walk in, take them, and then that's gonna be over. Kyle Dake was the only favorite for us, the only one. For those of us that know, right? Kyle Dake's the only favorite. Spencer may have gotten,
You got that bump when Michich went out, but even then,
yeah,
I mean, Higuchi is damn good.
he's damn good. And I had a friend of mine, and this is something I want to pose to you guys too. I had a friend of mine text me, um, and say something about Spencer training with Sasaki and training with Higuchi in the past. And he was just like, see, we got to stop doing that. And I'm like, stop doing what? And I'm like, stop training with
The best in the
gold
world.
medalists, like people like Spencer, as good as he is, can get better, and he is going to get better. Each one of our guys can always get better. Each one of the girls can always get better. Yes, there's probably some scouting going on when you're training with somebody who is a potential threat to your gold medal. But thinking that we should stop cross training, like, then in the NFL, they shouldn't do preseason. They shouldn't do scrimmages for anything, right? There shouldn't be any sort of overlap in training. No, like other countries are a little bit more developed than we are at freestyle. As good as we are, look at what they did. I mean, they didn't even, who was it? Japan didn't even qualify every single weight, and they crushed everyone in the medal count when it came to wrestling. Right. So like it was just funny to me that he was like, they were definitely scouting him, and he that didn't help. He shouldn't be training with you know other countries. And I'm like, and this person is a wrestler as well. He was a wrestler, high level wrestler. And I'm like, so you didn't go to like any other practices to get to where you got to? Like you just stuck in your wrestling room? Like those are the only people that you trained with? And I was just like, like what? I don't subscribe to that thought, right? Like Spencer wants to go and train in another country, he should go train in another country, you know. And I was reminded after we talked of Giangelo Hancock. Hancock was one of the only Greco guys, and I shouldn't say only. I'm sure that the others have done this, but Hancock really immersed himself in Greco in other countries where he was over doing a lot of these things for a very long period of time, and he was basically our only medalist for a while. Adam Kuhn was a medalist in there as well, but Hancock was very consistent, where you could see the growth. You could see him doing the things he was. I believe he even beat Haratunian at one point. So like that thought of not training with your potential competition is it's just insane to me. I don't
It's
know.
got to be hard to find training partners at some point that push you, right?
Yeah.
At that level. So, yeah, to think that there's not some mutual benefit, right? I mean, was he getting scouted? Sure, but I'm sure we were scouting them too, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not a one-way thing. It's not like Spencer went there and was like, oh, I forgot to pay attention to what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like, no. So it's not it's kind of ridiculous, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I just kind of like shook my head at it and I was like, I cannot believe I'm having this conversation right now. But and I'm sure he'll probably watch this and shoot me a text, but like it's just like it doesn't really work like that. And mind you, they trained together like years ago. This wasn't
Mhm.
recent. This was a couple years ago when Spencer
Mhm.
wasn't even doing freestyle. Right. Like it just at least I don't think it was recent. It might have been maybe it was like a year ago or so, but
It was a
um
couple years ago because it was. Does it wasn't it when Higuchi kind of did a tour through the U.S. and went to a bunch of different places?
yeah, I think so. And well, he also I think Iowa also did a trip to Japan as well
Mhm.
at some point. So, it just like I said, it baffled me.
Yeah, I know LVWC was in Japan for
Yeah,
at least 2 weeks, like within 2 or 3 months ago, because Cruz was over there, Labriola was over there. So yeah, that's not a weird thing to happen. I feel like a lot of people do that.
yeah. So
And
it's just
speaking of, I think one of us should get over to Japan and spy on what those guys are doing and girls, because they are freaking good. And
I do love
if I need to
sushi,
volunteer,
man.
I'll go.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah.
Send
it's
send both
incredible
of
what
us.
they did here. It was insane, man.
I had written down as one of my favorite things, like Takatani's celebration after,
Yeah, that was awesome.
that like just to be able to just live in the moment and be proud of himself and to just be like, I just took Olympic silver. Like that's still an awesome, awesome accomplishment. And
After being seventh at U23s a year ago.
right, like who was the guy? God, I remember pointing this out to my son. I'm blanking on the name, but it was Greco. I think it was 97 kilograms, and he'd been a world champion in the past. They call him like the polar bear or whatever. And he could not have gotten out of there fast enough during the medal ceremony. He did not want to stand for pictures. He did not want to shake anyone's hand. He never put the medal on his neck. He just stood there pissed off. And I was like pointing this out to my son, like, look at this dude. Look how angry he is to have just done one of the most amazing things in the world. In the meantime, you've got Takatani, who's like literally doing the meme where like the person in third place is shooting champagne in their mouth,
Yeah.
just just having the time of his life. So yeah, that was awesome. That was really, really awesome.
I mean, you saw
Um,
that with Spencer too, though. I mean, with the
Just gonna say
reaction
yeah.
that
that.
he
Yeah.
had and how he posted that, that's not what he came for. We know that,
Yeah.
but
I
you're an
feel like
Olympic
he
silver
changed
medalist.
his
Be
mind
proud.
though. He changed his mind though. Like I read the article where he said he gave his medal to his sister and he didn't even know where it was. He has it now. I saw pictures of him posing. I think Piles posted a picture with Spencer and Spencer was holding his medal. So and it was afterwards. He's not, they're outside the arena and everything else. Like so I feel like it's obviously it's disappointment. And I do not know what it's like to lose in the Olympic finals, but I know it's like to lose and you're disappointed, on any scale, you're disappointed.
I
And
was really good at losing, so I'm very well aware of
listen, I
it.
did plenty of it myself, right? So like you're extremely disappointed of any of that happening. But like still be proud of that accomplishment, man. Like there's a very finite amount of people that are able to do that.
I think too, like part of what we're seeing is that we have such access to them, and we're seeing them in such a vulnerable spot when it would probably benefit them to not be in the public eye in a time like that, and to be able to process it and go through those, effectively stages of grief, like processing the loss, processing what's happened, for the 4, 8, 12, 16 years leading up to this, that this has been your lifelong goal. That's a lot to deal with. And then to immediately like, well, I'm going to go on Twitter and spout off about how I'm not happy that I got sober. Maybe don't do that. Maybe just process it, and when the time is right for you to speak on your experience, then do it. But don't. I don't know if they feel like they have to do that, or
Like they owe the fans or people
yeah,
watching something.
or if it's a generational thing. Um, but he's not super active on social media either, so I don't know, that one kind of struck me odd, and I wasn't a fan of how all that played out. I wasn't a fan of how the media played into that. Even not wrestling media, but just media in general that picked that up. So
I think it's still, I always come back to this, or a lot of the times I do, but it's like, when you're a kid, and he's still a kid, in a lot of ways, a very mature kid, but
Say it to
I
his
think,
face.
yeah, I will, like he's little, but no, I'm kidding. He would kick my ass with one arm tied behind his back. But like that's the thing. It's like, you make an emotional decision, you just shoot a tweet out or whatever, and then at the end of the day, maybe somebody, older and wiser like myself is like, you know what, man, you did something pretty cool. You're gonna want to hold on to this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
and then we can talk about who's in his corner, and the example that set though too. I mean, if we're going to be honest, if we're going off of how Terry Brands reacted to losses, maybe that's not the best example for him to live up to.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it?
Yeah, I mean it
depends on how tall the apple tree is.
yeah. I
How much wind there is. There's a lot of
yeah.
factors.
Yeah, a lot of variables here.
I did have a friend, like a different friend, reach out about it.
Oh, look at you. I have 2 friends.
I have 2, at least
Yeah.
2. It's at
I thought
least
you
2.
guys were my only friends.
Yeah. But it's just like reach out and say, his response was very Iowa, and not to kind of give that sort of stigma, but like I feel like it kind of was, right? Like you get what you earn, sort of mentality is always, it's good to have, but shit at that level, like, man, because let's call it what it is. I'm sure Kyle Snyder would much rather be sitting there with another silver medal as opposed to what he has right now. Right. I'm definitely sure that Kayla Miracle would rather be going home with a medal. Don Parrish would rather be going home with a medal. Mason Parrish, like there are people that are on our team that are going home with nothing after all the work that they put in. So I can understand the disappointment, but like let's put some context around it. Like you accomplished a major feat, and that's why it's like it's so weird to watch so many different sports, right? Because you watch track and field, and this person is coming in third in whatever race, the 800, and they are celebrating. It is a celebration because they're like, I just medaled at the Olympics. It is a very big deal. And not to say that expectations for them are obviously different, but man, to come away with a medal in your first, or at least even wrestle for a medal in your first Olympics, it's a big deal. It really is a huge deal, especially for a guy like Spencer, who hasn't wrestled freestyle in the last 4 years and was injury plagued for such a long time. And essentially the last major tournament he wrestled in, he was pinned. Like outside of the qualifier and outside of US Open and Bill Farrell, like the last major tournament he wrestled in, he was pinned. Right. So like major feat to do what you did. And obviously I'm speaking at like an armchair quarterback right now because I would certainly trade places with an Olympic medalist. But like let's put things into perspective a bit and be like, man, like you just seriously accomplished something, right? And that what you did was awesome.
Well, and to that note too, right? Like how Helen celebrated after her bronze medal
That was
pin
awesome.
was pretty awesome too, you know. And uh, again, I don't know if she's officially came out and said that she's done or anything like that. The writing on the wall seems to lean that way.
She said that it could possibly be her last match. She said it in an interview that I had seen.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So I mean, yeah, to be able to celebrate like that and to have the perspective of, you know, 3 Olympics and all that she's accomplished, to celebrate in that way really does say like this is a damn special thing. So
Agreed.
Yeah, I loved her reaction. Like the immediate like joy and exhaustion and like culmination of everything that's happened in the last 12 years for her. It was awesome. That was
Yeah.
that that might be one of the highlights of Olympic wrestling for me was seeing how joyous she was. Her and Sarah both, I think, really exuded that. So that was really cool to see. And like the
Yeah.
changing of the guard, like seeing Sarah and Helen, potentially moving on. That we're seeing a meet and Kennedy coming as 20-year-olds, both making the finals meet, bringing home gold. Like it's pretty stellar for women's wrestling here.
Yeah. Kennedy obviously had a huge announcement to the senior level, but then on top of that, avenged the loss in the semifinals to even make the finals to Cuba, who had just beaten her, what, like 13-4 or something
Was it
like
13?
that.
Yeah,
So like that's huge, right? To have that kind of a turnaround and the wrestle the way that she did, she was dangerously close to even winning the gold medal as well, you know, but on top of it, like I loved how, he's just mentioned how Helen reacted to winning bronze. I loved how Sarah reacted as well. And I
mhm.
mean, absolutely savage picture of her getting fish hooked and smiling, right? And then,
Oh yeah.
the way that like Amit responded with like, I can't believe this just happened, right? Like just utter shock. So it was amazing to see how the women went out and wrestled, and it was awesome to see how the men went out and wrestled as well.
Well, and Sarah was getting fish hooked while counting the timer down.
Yeah.
It's like five,
that was
four,
badass.
3, 2. It was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I like it was great to see what the women did, and knowing that we're in very good hands when it comes to the women. And I would love to, as Austin said, I'd love to see how the women wrestling freestyle at a younger age and being able to wrestle freestyle at a younger age than, um, at least starting in freestyle, right? Like that's just kind of how they go about things of wrestling and freestyle. How that development really helps them in the long run. And to, to make matters even, I won't say worse, but to make matters funny, Kennedy is a Olympic silver medalist and now will be wrestling her first college match ever when
Yeah,
she
right.
goes to Iowa. Like that's hilarious, right? That is so funny that that is happening. And then on top of that, she's going to be teammates with Macy Kilty, right? Like our most some of our most decorated women are going to be college students and wrestling, in college this coming season. So hopefully the development of these other teams starts to, really see things ascend. And but now it was awesome to see what they did. And then like I said, like everybody is really overreacting. Like that it was a disappointment. It went from this Olympics will have an asterisk to this is really disappointing. But in fact, like it shows how much we pay attention to, and I mean we as American fans pay attention to how things go internationally and who's really on the scene, right? Like we can look at we've done the preview shows, we looked at a lot of different wrestlers, but it was even still surprising to see how these other international wrestlers, how they went out and competed. So we hadn't seen them in so long, right? You hadn't seen them in a year. So seeing how they've grown after watching our guys domestically, you're like, holy shit, like this is insane. The Iranian that beat Zayn, his what was it, his quarterfinal match or his semifinal, is his semifinal against Musakayev.
Oh,
That was
killed him.
incredible.
Yeah. Musakayev did not take losing well.
No.
Shocking.
Yeah.
But like to do that to the returning champ at 65 did not medal. You know,
Yeah, who
That
did,
weight's
though?
always insane.
the world
Seabass
champ, I should
did.
say. Yeah. That yes. Seabass medaling was incredible. He probably with his celebration, he probably would have medaled in gymnastics too.
Yeah,
The
right?
Yeah, that was
the
nuts.
celebration flip was amazing. But that was kind of eye-opening for me when I watch how he competed, how he wrestled and how he like hand fought and competed and attacked. It was just like we're capable of this, right? Like he's training in the same place as a lot of our other guys, right? Might be with a different team in a different RTC, but like the way he competes and the way he competed, incredible. And he competed and he attacked hard. And that was just something that, and I'm not saying that none of our guys attacked hard, but like when you look at how Zane couldn't get to a leg, or Snyder couldn't get to a leg, or Spencer couldn't get to a leg in his final, you're just like, man, like it was awesome to see Seabass do that, right? And then also seeing Darian being able to wrestle for a medal as well, like, you know, RBY was shocking, but I think the weight cut didn't help him.
No.
You know, I think he's a 60-kilogram guy. He's one of those tweeners through and through. But yeah, I mean, we'll certainly see kind of how those guys continue to develop. But man, you know, I think a lot of people were like, Seabass got he wrestled out of his mind at Worlds to make the finals and was a silver medalist, and people were like, okay, yeah, he was a silver medalist, but can he follow this up with another medal? And doing it the way that he did, he's a serious force. And now he's even more on the scene than what he was, in my opinion. So that was awesome to see.
I think there's certainly something to be said about how much wrestling he's done overseas in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
and how he's putting himself in a competitive environment more often than a lot of our guys are. Um, there's value to that. There's value to actually getting your hands on these guys. We know how domestic competition stacks up, and we know that it's always going to be, tight in a couple weights, and there's people who are razor thin margins in some instances. But since COVID, we haven't gone overseas as much. We haven't sent large contingents places. We haven't, had those big groups, and even as a full squad, like we haven't sent
Yeah, well, we don't want
full
him to
squads
scout
to.
it.
Yeah, that makes all the damn difference in the world. But like,
Stay in a locked room.
yeah, adjusting to that travel, adjusting to a time change, getting your hands on people from different countries, getting different feels. There's a huge, necessity to that. And I think that's something that, for the next quad, we need to really be putting more emphasis on. And, RTCs have all this money now, so, flip the bill.
Yeah,
Send them
my thing
overseas.
is, what a lot of us were complaining about. Oh, so and so drew the returning world champ. So and so drew the 1 seed. Well,
Yeah, who
why
cares?
aren't our guys? Why
Yeah.
aren't our guys getting seeded? First of all, like we're
Yeah.
not going to these events. It piggyback off Robbie. It's like these guys want to wrestle once, maybe twice a year. Is that good? I mean, based off these last results, maybe we do need to wrestle more. You know, it's like Seabass is doing it, like you said, and just to finish off on Seabass, he wrestled his repechage match half hour before his bronze medal match because it was the
Yeah.
last day. You know, all these other guys they had hours to wait. So he was wrestling, got off. A half hour later, he's back out there wrestling for freaking bronze and just sucked it up big time. And maybe that's the New Jersey in him. As much as I hate to admit, New Jersey over Pennsylvania, right? But I think there is something to that. Just get out there wrestling, get your hands on these, and just knowing how these matches are reffed and how these foreigners are wrestling too. Because But we brought up before, like staying in the middle. Is that better than active attacks? And some refs, yeah. So we have to learn to adjust like to that on the fly. And I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I think we've beaten this topic kind of with a dead horse of what we've liked. Let's look forward a little bit. What's the outlook for Team USA? Obviously we talked about Helen and Sarah maybe moving
Well,
on and Amit
before we do
and
that, though, I do have a hot take.
okay, what's that?
Hold
Oh.
on a second. All right, I'm ready now. I would like to move that we put an asterisk next to Iran and Japan for taking first and second in this Olympics. Russia wasn't there. All right, so let's hold your horses, Iran. Just chill. That's pretty much it. I just
Did you
wanted to
take
put
into
my
account that we
sunglasses
can
on.
see what browsers you have open right now?
Oh, look at that! Yeah, it's all LinkedIn. Noted.
Yeah, let's stick with hot takes before we look forward. What are some, and my hot take is a look forward, but I'll let you guys go. Austin, what's your hot take from either from the Olympics or from anything else?
Yeah, my hot take, and I don't really lean one way or the other thought wise on this, but I was a little underwhelmed, shocked maybe to see the NLWC guys maybe not up perform to par, maybe a little subpar. Um, just seeing them dominate, Penn State dominate the NCAA. Those guys are always prepared. They always win those big matches. They're always in the right positions at the right time. Um, and just kind of see, well, maybe Zane with his concussion, obviously a little
Yeah, very
different,
different
but
story on that.
just seeing how Dake couldn't really adjust to those low singles. I mean, we talked about that. Snyder just, we were expecting him to medal. He didn't. Is that a sign of his age? Lack of preparedness? I don't know. They had a fourth guy in there, Brooks, he was 2 seconds away. And, I just, maybe it's just not being in that position enough against competition. I don't know what that is, but like I said, I don't think it's not putting Penn State down, obviously not putting any line club down. It's just, you're used to seeing all those guys win at those big matches, be prepared for those big moments. And it seemed like none of those guys really pulled through in these similar situations. Obviously, Olympics is way different than NCAA championships, right? But, that's just one thought that I was kind of lingering about. It's just weird to see these Penn State room guys and, NLWC guys just not overcome and, come up to that challenge. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys have any thoughts on that, or
The
again,
the
could be a
bar is
crazy thought.
certainly high with them, right? Like
Yeah.
it watching them win titles domestically and watching how many people they put on the team. And then, I mean, there was a reason why the trials were at Penn State, right? Like it's the same as why the other trials were in Nebraska when Burroughs was there, right? Like there's a reason why these things happen. So yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, like we said before, everything was smooth sailing up to a point.
Yeah.
Zane had certainly a bad draw. I think Brooks was more than capable of making it to the final. Just one mishap. Um, with Snyder, he lost to two guys that had beaten him before, so they kind of had the formula of what it was, and he couldn't get over that hump yet. So who's to say? But yeah, I just think that it's high expectations that we have for our team comes from looking at them again right through a microscope the way that we do.
Yeah. And just to finish on that, Dake's bronze medal match was freaking crazy, right? It's like,
And
where's this Kyle Dake from? He just seemed overly flustered, overly frustrated, and not really himself. And I remember Jordan on the broadcast was saying like coach needs to get in there and calm him down, at the break or whenever there was some time for him to talk, like, hey, calm him down, put him back in the moment. And then 20 seconds left, Dake goes crazy and four bombs. And it's like, okay, where was that Kyle Dake before,
yeah,
But yeah, it just seemed like that match, I think that loss really broke Kyle. And I think it kind of needed that long break, that challenge him, at the refs just to reset, get focused, and get back to doing Kyle Dake stuff.
agreed. Robbie, your hot take?
Well, I mean, it's not super hot. We need to do something in Greco. Um, it's been so. I mean, we're not that far removed from a world championship. And what has happened in the last 20, 15, 20 years that has gone from us being so high to us not performing at all, not qualifying all the weights, not picking up any wins, barely getting any offensive points. Um, though there's a lot of bad blood with the way Limlin left and the change over there that ended up not being a changeover and then changing again. Like there's been so much instability there that we need to figure out something. And I know there's a lot of people within the Greco community who are trying to do things like the Combat Wrestling Club is doing a Greco only training and really pushing that. There's a few clubs like that across the country that are trying to make more of a movement for Greco to be a the sport that these guys are doing and not just a one off that once they're done with folk style, which is what it has been. um, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if we need somebody who's not entrenched with USA Wrestling, not even involved with USA Wrestling, to come in and kind of shake things up. um,
Bring
but
someone,
I think
bring a foreigner in. Bring in
yeah,
Lopez.
yeah, he's not doing anything. He has 5
Pay
gold
him.
medals.
Pay
Bring
him.
him in, and to
Did you
get
guys
dance
see?
lessons all together.
Did you guys see that Sam Hazewinkle story?
Yeah.
There are some great neon stories that
Oh
are coming
man,
out.
he just comes in the room and just goes ah, and everybody knows that means like challenge him, and he just kick their ass and leave.
Maybe that is the answer. I mean, it would certainly be a face, and with a good, proven track record. Maybe he can coach, maybe he can't. I don't know, but we've got to do something, and
Yeah.
there's got to be stability. There's got to be somebody who takes charge, and we need to have a coherent and cohesive plan instead of just throwing all these different shit at the wall, hoping something works, and it hasn't. And like you said earlier, it's no shade on the wrestlers. They're doing everything they can. They're out there competing and trying to do it. We're just not in a place as a program in the country to be successful right now. And what do we need to do to move forward to fix that?
Yeah. Agreed. I have no other points to add to that.
I'm a shitty Greco
final-
coach, but I'll take it over.
One
Right
final
now.
hot take is that I think that we should have Jordan Burroughs on the team every year because clearly he's the tide that rises all ships, So when he's on the team, we do pretty well. So let's get him back.
I think, yeah, that'd be nice. I don't think he's done yet.
I think we see him in Omaha in a few weeks.
Yeah, so do I. That is not my hot take. That is something I said before. And we all agreed on before. My hot take is that by 2028, we see a weight shift by Dake, Brooks, and Snyder. And I think Snyder moves heavyweight, Brooks is at 97, and Dake is at 86. Because Dake mentioned something about the weight cut a little bit. It was kind of in passing. He didn't say it was like an issue, but like he did say something about making 74, right? It's not as easy as it used to be. But he still
What happens
loves
when
to
you hit
compete.
13?
Yeah,
It's harder to cut
exactly.
weight.
Right. But he did mention, wanting to continue competing and that he wanted to wrestle at non-Olympics, but if you wrestle at the Olympics, you can't wrestle at non-Olympic weight worlds. So I think we continue to see him compete, and I don't think that he is just going to compete for 1 or 2 more years. I think he goes one more quad and wrestles in 2028, or at least attempts to make the team in 2028. I think Snyder at that point, he'll be 32. So he might want to just be bigger, right? And not have to make weight anymore.
But can he get much bigger?
I think he can, honestly. Snyder was lifting weights like crazy before. And I was having the conversations that I had with my friends, and somebody said that he looked a little small. And I was like, is that is that in comparison to 2023 Snyder, or is that in comparison to the fact that Taz and then the dude he wrestled for bronze? I can't remember his name. What was it? I can't remember what his name is right now. Is it that the fact that they are just huge, right? Like Taz is very tall. Like all those guys are very tall. Like Snyder is like my height, right? Like I'm like 5'11". He might even be a little bit shorter than me,
He is.
you know? So like him being as big as he is because he eats the way he does, and he has the massive frame and build to do all those things. And he's been a big kid essentially all his life, and now he's a big grown man. But like I feel like if he wanted to, he could just continue to get as big and strong as he really wanted to, you know.
See, I'd be concerned with that because I mean, I made the comment in one of the group chats that I'm in that his breathing seems to be an issue, and I don't know if that's because of the bulk. The majority of his bulk is upper body.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have. I mean, he's strong lower body, but he's not thick there like he is the upper body.
Yeah.
And you see like a lot of labored breathing from him, and not like a gasping for air or what it is, but it's a lot of like heaving breathing from him. And I don't know how beneficial it would be for him to put additional weight on his frame.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah, I
saw him
mean,
be successful at heavyweight in college, but that's a different ball game.
yeah.
And those are different human beings.
Hey, maybe he stays at 97 and it becomes a Brooks versus Snyder in 2028. Because this will be the last time we see Aaron Brooks at 86. He already said he's going up to 92,
Yeah.
and he'll reevaluate when 2028 comes around. I do not see him cutting any weight in 2028. I don't see that happening, not one bit. So, and as well as Dake, I think at that point, Dake's what, 36, 37. I don't see him wanting to still make 74. I even see Spencer potentially going up because he said that like grown men shouldn't weigh 125 pounds.
Well, he's not wrong, but
He's not. So maybe he goes up to 60 in for worlds. And there's other guys that can come in at 57 and he goes 60 for worlds, just like he may have developed into being a tweener like RBY and Dayton and some of these other, and so maybe we see him go up to 60 because I don't think that he really wants to be that small. I think he probably wants to feel a little bit more natural and like a natural human being and not a natural big wrestler for the weight. But even Higuchi wrestled at 65 at one point. So like he cut a leg off probably to make that weight, right? Like he's pretty big.
Maybe he was like that pole vaulter.
Yeah, cut off the pole vault.
Yeah. That's my hot take, is that we see by 2028 and probably as early as 2026, we see a weight shift.
You see Higuchi doing pole vault, he won't knock off the pole.
So we'll see a weight shift.
I'm not sold that Dake goes another 4 years.
Well,
I don't know. Like
fourth kid on the way,
get a
man.
good
That's
feel
a
on him.
lot.
If we're getting to like the original point of the question about like looking at the future, I think we could see, with the exception of Brooks, maybe a whole different lineup.
I was just going to ask that. Yeah. How many? I think we see Brooks back and maybe that's it. I think everyone else is either going to be gone or get beat out by someone younger coming in.
You don't think Spencer goes another quad?
At this point, it's fair. It's reasonable
he
to
will.
think that, well, of course you think he wants to, but is his body going to let him? I mean, like, that's a reasonable thing to say. We don't.
I mean, them knees are pretty new.
They are new. Nobody wants anything bad.
Warranty on those things?
I feel bad even saying it, but I think it is a reasonable thing to consider, knowing how long it took us for us to have the privilege to watch him wrestle freestyle again to begin with.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, maybe he takes a year off, heals up, and finds love in the sport again. But yeah, I think between him and Brooks are probably the main two. I think everyone else is. I don't think we'll see them in 2028.
And that was a thought that I had too, Austin, is, would it benefit some of these guys to take a year off in a quad and not compete and not go for a world title and just let their bodies heal and, go abroad and get your hands on some other people, but not, have the sole focus of a world championship? Would that be beneficial to them?
It's
And
it's it's tough though to earlier in this same conversation saying that they should go compete more and then now
right.
saying that they shouldn't maybe.
My thought with that more is like Dake, somebody who's at the
who's in
end
his
of his
30s.
Yeah.
yeah, at the end of his competitive cycle, you know, is it going to benefit him more to go, balls to the walls for 4 more years and see what happens, or would it
Mhm.
be good to have a light year and then refocus and reset?
That's fair.
Maybe go to Stillwater and coach for a couple of years. There's apparently some money there waiting for him.
Yeah. See,
Allegedly.
that was my thought too. And it was funny, like it I feel like Dake takes maybe a year off, right? Takes a year or two off. And because if you think about it, the only thing he hasn't won yet is the Olympics. So he takes a year or two off, allows like just normal training, nothing hard, nothing rigorous. It's all technique based, and continues to let that Benjamin Button thing happen, so that by the time he's, by the time you cut the leg open and the ring say 37, he's still 33, right? Like something along those lines of just like really investing in his body and his training, being smart about it, being a normal human for a little bit, and not having to
Whoa, he
be
said
so.
35 years to do that, and that's been a struggle. So
Yeah, I just, it's just a little different, right? I that's, and I mean, this was literally the last topic, right? Is like looking forward, is just like, what does our team look like? Who do we have on specifically on our men's team, because we do have so many of these wrestlers that it's not a very youthful team. The women, very youthful team. A lot of youth when it comes to the women's side of things. At least specifically with two of our finalists, right? But on the men's side, who's to say that Dake is still there in 2028, or Snyder? I mean, everybody's saying that Snyder goes another quad. Oh, he'll be the same age as Dake when 2028 comes around, but it's like, who knows if he still wants to be?
Hmm.
hmm.
I feel like he does. I feel like he wants another medal, and doesn't want to go out on that kind of a note. So I feel like he'll still be there, which is why I feel like maybe he moves up. Maybe he's just like, I'm just gonna get big, strong, use some athleticism like I did against big heavyweights in college, and go from there. Um, but no, I honestly think that Brooks and Carter Sirachi are going to be looking to be the guys in 2028 at 86 and 97. If Carter does go a full quad and doesn't decide to move on to fighting, because I know that's something that he's expressed his interest in. But no, I think Spencer does come back. I think Spencer goes another quad. I think Yanni is in there. I think Vito is in there in 2028. Not to say that these are the guys I think make the team, but I think they're still trying to. I think 2028 is where we'll see the guys that have been our perennials on the NCAA stage be their last year, right? If
Hmm.
Yanni doesn't make a team in 2028, I don't see him coming back. If Vito, I don't see him coming back, right? And by that time, Yanni and Vito might be at 65 and 74.
Hmm.
To be completely honest, that's another thing that I can see with Vito not wanting to wrestle at 57 for the Olympics and saying the weight cut. And honestly, part of it was probably his injury as well. But like at that point, he might just be like, I'm gonna get up to 65. I'm gonna eat for the first damn time in my life and go 65. And Yanni's not small now. I'm sure Yanni's going to be at non-Olympics at 70 kilograms, and
Yeah.
that's probably where he stays in non-Olympic years, and he goes up to 74 in Olympic year.
Hmm.
Yeah, in 2028, we might see Jax Forrest and Bo Bassett and those young crop because they'll be
Right.
21, 22 years old, which
Yep.
You know, you look at Taz from Bahrain, he's 21. Like,
You said from Bahrain.
Yeah.
well,
He
representing
represents it.
representing
Yes,
Bahrain.
he looks very Middle Eastern. Like he's
Yeah, I got a message from a guy that follows wrestling, went to in high school, and he goes, anyone with the Vili at the end or Udev at the end of their name is really good at wrestling. And I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, all
What do you
those
think about
Russian.
Dagestan?
all those
You're-
V's at the end of those names, they are not, you know, they only represent the name on the singlet. They're not actually
What
from
was it?
there.
Was it Adam Satiev that was the first one to that Bahrain bought? I'm sorry, paid for his rights, whatever terminology they use. Wasn't he the first one to go to Bahrain? He competed for them for a couple years. Is that
Maybe.
what
I
I'm
can't
thinking of?
remember.
I
I
think you're
can't
right, Robbie.
remember. You might be right about that.
That was kind of the start of the, the bidding wars for it. Other than the Soviet bloc country reshuffling and that, but like people getting paid to represent other countries and renouncing their citizenship and things like that. It's a weird thing in our sport.
Yeah.
Curious to see which young guys coming up do it too, 2028. You know, was not Bassett and Jack's Forrest, but guys in that age bracket and that age group, if they're gonna test the waters elsewhere too, and more
It's
Americans the better.
it's
We saw
way
with
more of an
Seabass and
option now, right? Like,
yeah,
And we see people being successful with it.
yeah.
maybe we'll see
Yep.
AJ Ferrari with Team Italy. Who knows?
Jesus Christ.
Well, look at the time. We should get going.
I haven't seen him wrestle freestyle since like cadets.
I haven't
Like,
seen him wrestle in 3 years except
well,
with
that
his
too, but like
personality disorder.
even like internationally, like I can remember, what was it? He wrestled Braxton Amos, I think, at cadets.
Yep, that sounds right.
That was like a really big match back then. I can remember being in the land of the Zips in Akron, and
Nice pull there.
and that
Action.
that match was big. But yeah, I haven't that's another thing, right? Like the Ferraris will most likely want to throw their hat in the freestyle ring at some point. I think, there's a whole crop of guys at Iowa, Gabe Arnold, who I'm sure we'll see at some point. If we didn't see him at the trials, will we see him at non-Olympics? Will we see David Carr at non-Olympics, right? Like things are going to start to get a little bit spicy here in the next, month. So we'll certainly see, but I think the future is bright. I think we do have some serious contenders that are going to need to get their hands on some foreign competition and kind of see how things pan out. But all overall, I'm really happy with how our team showed out at the Olympics. You know, expectation and all. I think that they did really well. They really did. 7 medals. There was a time where we were getting 2 medals, and now we're getting 7. And we have multiple female Olympic champions and world champions and 20 and the youngest champion, right? So pump the brakes. It's the sky's not falling. Japan had a really good year. Iran and the United States had no champs for the first time in I don't know how long, something that I want to look into and see how long it's been. Obviously, we know about United States and how it's been 68 since 68, but excluding the boycott in 80. But like I don't remember the last time that both Iran and the United States had no champs. It's been a while, but
It's an asterisk here. It doesn't count.
right? There
Thank
is.
you, Austin.
There is
That's
an
special.
asterisk on it. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mickey Mouse tournament.
Completely. Any other hot takes, or are we ready to put this one to bed, gentlemen?
I'm good, but I'm gonna put my sunglasses back on.
They do match the
Good
Team
look.
Amin hat. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are they
That was by
blue?
design. They are blue. Yeah.
Are they blue
And then
blockers? Because
And then I got my Freddie Rodriguez shirt.
There
Shout
you
out Holt High School in Oklahoma and SIUE, and I think he was at some point going to wrestle at Michigan State too.
There you go.
cool.
Well, gents, it's always fun. having fun chopping it up about the goings on, and we'll hop back on here very soon. Talk about some of the other things happening. Maybe some of the youth that could potentially wrestle, potentially not wrestle because of
Real quick
WWE not
before we
wanting
jump
to
off,
tournament.
yeah, let's hit on that real quick with the cadet situation. Um, everything kind of being in flux because of the ongoing uh, international incidents, I guess
Yes.
is the nice way to put it. Effectively, that we have to travel through an active war zone to get to the tournament site, and that's not working very well. So my understanding is that there's going to be some sort of decision made by Wednesday, whether we're going to compete, whether the tournament's going to be moved. But as of now, the team is in, I believe, Vienna, just sitting and waiting. So keep them in your thoughts, and hopefully we'll figure out some sort of, I don't know, some sort of solution for this. I would hate to see them lose their opportunity to go to a world championship because of shit that has nothing to do with us. So
Yeah.
Vienna does wait for you. That's a Billy Joel lyric. Sorry.
that was the only one I didn't get.
I didn't
Okay.
get that one either.
I
It's a
got that one.
fantastic song.
Yeah.
I recommend it. Yeah.
I would argue that nothing Billy Joel does was fantastic. Maybe that's my hot take.
I think you'll lose that argument. Yeah. Do you need these sunglasses, dude? That's scorching.
I'm waiting for
Uh,
Jags to get
That's an
real
ice
pissed off
cold
about
take.
that.
There you go. On that note, we will close things out. Gentlemen, always a pleasure, and see you again next time.